Hi, friends. Welcome to Getting Your Real Estate Life Together. This is Tracy Hicks with All Things Real Estate. And I'm super excited to introduce my friend, Shelley Zavitz. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. Welcome to the new year.
Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. Today is the 4th of January, in case you're listening to this on like September 19th, 2024 or whatever.
We're in the podcast already. It took 3.5 seconds.
So normally I let people introduce themselves, but Shelley was like, nope, I want you to introduce me. So I'm going to do that. And then we can kind of tell, well, I mean, there's always a story behind everything, right? But I met Shelley 2 years ago.
2 years, yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah. Shelley had already been a realtor, but had just written a book and came into the store and wanted to do her launch party in the store. And I was like, hell yeah. And then I was like, oh, I should probably look at this book first. And I think you gave me, I'm sure you gave me a copy.
I did. Yeah. I forced it on you. I was like, you will read this. We just met, right. But I need your help.
And then I got like a chapter in and I was like, oh my God, this is really good. And then ended up giving it to a friend of mine. I was like, who had been a realtor for quite some time. And I was like, you have to read this book. So I have to admit, I have not read it all the way through yet. I need to get back to it. I know. I can't believe I just admitted that on live.
Well, there's podcast. An Audible version of it if you're more into Audible.
No, I think I need the book. And I think people need the book because I'm sure there's tons of note taking and highlighting and all that good stuff that people dog ear and all that good stuff. So anyway, back to Shelley. Shelley is a realtor at Dwell Realty in Portland, Oregon. And she wrote your first 365 Days in Real Estate. Best book ever. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, checks in the mail. Yeah, yeah.
And we sell it at the store. So there's that. So we're going to talk to Shelley today about a couple of things. Naturally, we're going to probably weave in and out of being a realtor and writing the book, but realtors are so entrepreneurial. And obviously, you and I were chatting a little bit about side hustles, but I really feel like obviously this is not a side hustle. Like you're a full-time realtor and you full-time wrote a book. Like first of all, how did you juggle the two? Because I just need to know that.
The actual writing of the book?
And being a realtor at the same time.
Well, I am a workaholic a little bit. So
right.
There's a lot of work ethic that comes with me. But the first writing of the book only took me 8 days.
What?
Yeah. Just how it came about. I had finished my second year in real estate and I had missed this like very large goal that I wanted to get. And I was kind of not upset about it, but I was like, I wonder what I could have done. Cause I missed it by just like a little bit, like a hair. Right. And I was like, man, like what could I have done or implemented earlier that would have helped me do this? And there's a huge learning curve when you first get your license. And I had come down to Portland. I was living in Canada. And then I came down to Portland and started like a referral business in real estate without knowing anyone. And I was like, man, this is tough.
Right.
And I think that when it really came down to writing the book, I had all the stories sort of already in there because other new agents were coming to me saying like, how did you start your business? Because I was relatively like successful in the way that I looked at it. And so we spent a lot of time talking about things that I did. So I already had those stories that I had been saying over and over again to other people.
Right.
So I was in the shower, I had missed my goal and I was like, maybe I should write that book because there wasn't a book that I could find that was just about starting a business and really putting in like the foundation of something that's exciting that you want to get behind, that you really want to work on.
Yes.
And I think that when I first wrote it down, I put it on those like cooking cue cards, and I was like, okay, I wrote the name of it and it wasn't the name that it is now. And it was like the first 365 days of like, what did I do and what did I do wrong was basically what my question was to myself.
Yep.
walked away from it, and then I laughed a bit, and I was like, actually, I could write a chapter about, and I started to write the cue cards out of like, this is what I could talk about. This is how it could help somebody else's business. And then here's a funny story that I could put with it, because my background is writing for broadcasting, like radio.
Okay.
And like I would write parody songs for morning shows and advertising for advertisers. And I didn't want to go away from the way that I naturally write. So
Right.
it's meant to be funny. There's times that it's ridiculous, and it's meant to be. And
Yeah.
it's funny because the person that voiced the audiobook, when I was giving her notes, I was like, if it feels ridiculous reading it, make it ridiculous, because it was. It was
Right.
terrible what happened to me, or it was
Right.
great what happened, or man, did I ever mess that up,
Right.
So
And you wrote all that stuff down so
in
you
8 days. I wrote the cue cards in 2 days because I had to think about it and organize all my thoughts.
It's like a brain dump.
And then I got up at 4:30 every morning, and I wrote from 4:30 to 9 for 8 days. And it was just like, let's get it out. And then I let it sit probably for a month or so before I went back and made transitions and rearranged chapters and stuff. So, and then I let it sit for another 6 months because I didn't want to do anything with it. And it took my coach saying, "What if you don't publish this? I'm going to start sending it out to people." And I was like, "Oh, it's not edited. Okay, fine. Fine, I will do it."
Why didn't you want to send it out?
I mean, it's an entire book about how it was all the challenges and all the pain that I went through. It was a super emotional experience. The way I wrote it was emotional, and maybe not everyone wants to hear that. I didn't know how it would be received, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah. And isn't that what we do to ourselves so often? And I think what's interesting about realtors is that, and I'm just now thinking about this, is that, imposter syndrome and all that stuff is for real. It comes in all different kinds of forms. And I think that realtors don't always recognize that right away, because I think they probably deal with that in almost every deal that they do.
Right.
Think about it. Like that's such a huge deal to buy a house, right? And I think realtors often feel like, they're not worthy somewhere deep down. Obviously, realtors are great at their job and they think on the fly and, getting stuff done and
problem solvers.
Yeah. But I also think that there is probably always a little tinge of that, like, oh my God, am I like worthy of this? And clearly they are, because they're doing it. And just like with you in the book, I think it's the same thing, is that we just get in our head sometimes, and that little voice just tends to nag at you a little bit more than normal.
Well, I was just worried about, could I handle a bad review? I didn't know, because the way that I realtor, and if we have personality conflicts or whatever, I'm not sensitive about that. But when it comes to creativity for me, I'm highly sensitive to it. So.
Yeah.
And then it did happen, and it wasn't so bad, actually.
Right.
So there you go. I was like, okay, I got a bad review. I'm not going to read these anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, if you get so many good reviews, then you just don't have to worry about the bad ones, because
well, the book sold out 7 times already. So
oh my God.
Something's going okay. And that person, we just didn't connect. That's okay.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
I've come a long way from then.
Exactly. I mean, that's the way it goes, right? Once you get it out there, that's most of the pressure. It's like, okay, I did it. Here we go. There's no turning back. So then you just, move forward. I want to talk about your realtoring, because I just think it's amazing that you came from Canada to Portland, didn't know a soul except for Gwen. And
I knew 4 people in total.
Oh, that's right. You knew.
See, if you had read the book.
Dang it, busted. Okay, I'm gonna go.
4 people.
I'm gonna be at the store tomorrow. I work there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will grab a copy and read it.
Do you want me to come and read it to you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
On Zoom.
Okay.
The COVID reading.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so amazing that, I mean, anybody can do that, right? But not everybody does. Like, driven and focused and goal oriented or whatever it was. How did you build a business coming to Portland and just you didn't even know you wanted to do real estate? You literally decided after you got here.
Yeah.
So how did that happen, and like what the hell?
Yeah. Okay. So I came down here to be with my partner, and then I had always purchased condos in Vancouver, BC, because I couldn't afford a house actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, update them. And then when the market was ready, I would sell them. And I did this with someone else, and we got really good at it.
Okay.
And then when I got down here, Gwen and I bought a house, and it was a fixer. When we walked in, I told her, I was like, see that or smell that? That's the smell of opportunity. Because it just smelled so bad. Like
she was like, ugh.
It's like cat and like human decay.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was working on the house, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do down here. Did I want to do broadcasting? I didn't really want to be in radio anymore. I wasn't sure I wanted to write anymore. And then a friend of mine bought a house and got some really bad advice. And I was like, man, like, why didn't you talk to me? We could have like walked through this. She's like, you should really be a realtor. And then I was talking to another person, and they were like, oh, I would totally trust you. If it was you telling me, I would do everything you said. And I was like, maybe I should be a realtor, but I didn't know if I wanted to get in commission sales, all the things that you have to assess.
Right.
And so I did decide to do it. And I hooked up with a company that was helpful with new agents. And I got a lot of support there from a lot of different agents. And I talk about them in my book. Just the amount of people that were supportive and giving me knowledge was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say to anybody who's a new agent out there, if someone tells you to do something, it's up to you. You have to do it. They can only say what it is. But if you don't consistently do something, you'll never find success. Success is in consistency and preparation. That's it, right? There's nothing different or more. There's nothing better about me, right? Yeah, it's just that I did the work.
Yep.
So the first thing that I recognized was that I was behind the 8 ball with the database problem. Yep. I didn't have anyone to call.
You didn't have a database. You didn't have anybody to put in it.
Real problem right off the top. It's like, yeah, this is not good. So I started at the beginning, and I took one thing at a time. And the first thing was I needed a database, and I needed names in there that knew me, that could trust me, and hopefully would like me, because that's who people work with. Right. And I was like, how do I do that quickly? That was my biggest question right off the top, was how do I quickly build a database of people who trust me and know me and maybe like me?
Yep.
And I made it into a game, and it was just like a goal. It was like every week I had to meet a certain amount of people, and I needed to be one-on-one with them. At some point in that conversation, I needed to, in my way, tell them who I am. And it was an authentic thing. I wasn't thinking about sales. I wasn't thinking about real estate or homes, or if I could help them, or any of that. It was just like, how do I build a relationship where someone can get to know me really, really well? Right. And that's a vulnerable thing to do.
You didn't do the whole, like, can we get coffee thing, right?
No, we went on hikes. Like the most obscure thing was I played ping pong with someone. They were really good. Totally kicked my butt. And then, and that's what my goal was. I need community, and a community supports a business. Yeah. Whether you sell widgets or you're a restaurant or you're a realtor, it's your community that wants to pour into you.
Yeah.
You have to become worthy of that.
Yes.
And I think that when I was building my database, I was aware of that. And radio is a lot the same. Listeners listen to radio stations. Like, there's how many pop stations out there, but they listen to radio stations that they connect with the people that are speaking in between the songs, right?
Yep.
So how could I become that super serve, really personable and accessible real estate agent? Because I found that the people that I spoke with, it was like, well, I'm getting stuck in this team, or I got shuffled down this team. Things like that were happening to them. And I was like, well, that could be where my niche lives, right?
New agents.
No, just like it was mostly buyers actually, or like first time home buyers
Oh, oh.
that people didn't have time for, because somebody
Oh,
that I really spent a lot of time attracting, I would say in the first 6 to 8 months.
okay.
And then as I went through more transactions, I decided, okay, well, that's a lot of effort. I'm going to spread this out because I want to grow my business. So I'm going to keep these people at this percentage, and then I'm going to grow into this niche.
Right.
And how I did that was I looked at the people around me and I was like, what do they have in common? Who are the people I like to spend time with? And I kind of weeded out the ones that were like really stressful. Those aren't the people I'm supposed to serve. There is someone else that will be
For
better to
them.
serve them.
Yes.
And I think that recognizing that not all business is meant to be your business is kind of gives you a break a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You can be absolutely perfect to somebody, and someone's first nightmare
Yeah.
being the exact same person, right?
Totally. Yep.
So I think that it was just a lot of uncovering a lot about myself first, especially in the first 2 years. And it was a painful experience. And I talk a lot about mindset in my book because I really struggled with this. Like, I'm not afraid to say it now. I had a very large ego, coming like radio exec to like tiny little blob on Portland maps. I was
Right.
like, man, this hurts. So that took a while to get over. And like I had a lot of hesitations about how to proceed. And eventually I just started charging like one foot in front of the other. And if it didn't work out that day, it will work out the next day. And
Yeah.
I think perseverance helped me as well, because there was a ton of kick in the teeth,
Yeah.
tons. So
And then also going through all that, it's funny because you hear this from realtors a lot, but those clients that you took that you knew you shouldn't have,
mm,
and maybe would have been better served referred out to somebody else, or but you're like, and it's not always about money. Some people think that, oh, you just wanted the commission check or whatever, but it's about serving people and helping people. And you feel like when you're asked, will you be my real estate agent? I mean, it's hard for realtors to say no, or it's just that's not the knee jerk reaction,
right.
obviously.
Yeah,
But those
I
people
agree.
that our time sucks, or family members, or the
Well, I
people.
don't have that problem. I don't have any here. I don't have to deal with that. I deal with other people's family members, but then I end
Right.
up just being a therapist. So,
Right, right. And I think that I would say that well over, well, I won't even put a percentage on it, but most people that do a transaction with a family member are like, I should have referred that out, but you go through it because you're just, anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But I love that you I love that you talked about thinking about how, or who your person was, and drilling that down. Like, I don't think we do that enough. And that's really, really great advice. Just one little tidbit that you might find in your first 365 days in real estate.
yeah, maybe.
Okay, so going back to, okay, so now you've got your people in your database. What, like, we talked a little bit about CRMs and things like that. What were you doing at the time, and has that changed? And what are you using now for your CRM? How are you keeping track of people?
Yes, I originally put my people into the company I was working for, their CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And then I personally did not like the functionality of
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
And I use Sphere. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that's a pretty good one for new agents. I believe it's free until you hit 2 million in volume, which
Nice.
is kind of cool.
And he's a local
And
agent
he's a local. Shout out Ross, love you.
Yep. Hey, Ross.
And then I realized that once my business started growing and I wanted to change how I was doing touches, I moved into Wise Agent, which has like all the bells and whistles,
Mm-hmm.
just because I wanted to up my game in certain areas around like texting and things like that. So
So Wise
now
Agent
I'm
does,
with Wise Agent now. Yeah, you
and
can text out to them.
oh,
Yeah, they have it. It's a pretty cool program,
Nice.
but it's more expensive. So,
Yeah.
do what's good for you and your budget for
And
sure.
what and what you're going to work with and what you're going to actually use and all that good
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. Because they have like landing pages that you can use for your listings and things like that I
Yeah.
really need
Yeah.
right now. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then you can take that landing page and you can put it on your website and to promote your own listings. So
Yeah.
they've thought of a lot of things that if you were a lone wolf, let's say, and you wanted control of your whole brand, then, they would be a
Yeah.
good way to go.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that I am, but if you wanted to.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
controlling, that's for sure.
yeah.
Wow.
Which is, when you talk about going to a brokerage and being, new in the business, there's usually realtors usually at least change a brokerage at least once or twice in their lifetime, sometimes more, sometimes less. But, I think that figuring out it took a while. Like, so you've been in the business, what, 5 years?
Yep, that's right.
So, and you were with a larger company in Portland, and I think that a lot of times people, by then you know who you are as a realtor, right? You feel pretty confident about that.
At 5 years. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I would be lost without them if I didn't meet them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So when you're deciding who you're going to go with, you've got to go with, I mean, there's always the connection. Obviously, you have to have some sort of connection to that brokerage, whether it's the person that brought you in, you had a connection with that person personally.
I think your managing broker is really important.
Yes.
Because they're the ones that, you're
going to call.
Well, if you get into some trouble, but also that you might want to bounce ideas off of that understand you, and if you don't have that connection with that person, I mean, it can be problematic.
Yeah. And you feel alone and like it just, I would say being a brokerage owner and I'm not the managing broker, but I still get phone calls, from our agents that are like, okay, I just want to make sure 9 times out of 10, the realtors know what they're talking about. They just need to bounce it off somebody, say it out loud to someone who knows what they're talking about, not your partner or your bestie who's not a realtor, and making sure that you feel like you're doing the right thing and and also problem solving and bouncing ideas off each other. Networking in a community that way is important. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, did you also I just know this about you, so I'll just bring it out of you, but you also had a group of people that you kind of, not accountability, I guess, were you guys accountability partners or a group? You had a group of people that you kind of worked with in the very beginning. You were all a part of like a new agent squad, and kind of, didn't you bounce ideas off each other and do stuff like that?
Well, we had a new agent group, but what I talk about in the book is I had kind of, without them knowing, hired in 4 positions. So it was my accountability partner, but she didn't know she was one. It was my mentor, but she didn't know she was one.
Right.
The visionary, who we barely spoke, but she was my visionary. And my coach, who I talk to all the time, who I actually still call her coach.
Yep.
And those positions, instead of like having one person that you just like always call, I kind of spread it out over 4. Like if I was not sure how to climb a wall that my accountability partner also had to climb, I would ask her a question. Or if it was like, I want to build that thing that you're building for me in the future, I would ask that of my mentor. Like, I kind of spread it out because I didn't think that my accountability partner would have the answer that my mentor would have.
Right. Okay. I love that.
Because who you surround yourself with makes you better, right? So
yeah.
Well, I was very intentional about that.
Yes. And you identified them. Like, I think we all have that, but maybe we don't. I know I don't really identify those people. And maybe if I did that, I could utilize that better and be more intentional about their use of time, my use of time. That's a really good, is that in your book?
It is.
I love that idea.
What else do you want to know?
I mean, I'll read the book and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, good.
No, I think that's amazing. I think that we have those people in our, even in our personal life, you tend to go to certain people for certain things. And, those people have probably embraced that role because that's what they're good at. And that's how they can help you in their friendships and things like that. Bringing that into your business and being intentional about it that's really, really good advice.
And the other thing too is those positions, the people within it, they sometimes change, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Your
Yeah.
mentor might not always be your mentor, or maybe you'll have two. Like right now, I probably have five in that position. But it depends what I'm looking at and who I think would be the best to answer the question.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think that the more brains that you have that are like-minded and can help you grow your mind and your confidence
Mm-hmm.
around, the more that you have around you that can lift you. Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit, right?
And part of the time consumption is thinking about the problem, but if you have a go-to, because you're very task oriented, like you want to
Mhm.
get shit done, and so for
Yeah.
you I can see how that would work really well because you know immediately who to go to. You're not pondering it. Well, I mean, sure, you probably are a little bit, but
Mhm.
you're not a lot of the time is trying to figure out the problem, but if you've got that go-to, then you can fix that problem and move on to the next.
Yeah, that's right. And then also I become available to them.
Yes.
If they, I wouldn't say that I'm their mentor, but I can also be supportive of them
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that we can all grow together. Because a lot of those relationships, at first it was a one-way street, because I mean, my knowledge of the real estate landscape here in Portland was limited. And
Yeah.
now I've learned a lot more, that I can participate on a higher level in those relationships. And that matters to me. I want it to be a two-way.
Yeah. And that's become your network.
Yeah. And I think that if you're constantly a taker, eventually you won't have much to take from.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No,
So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
it's not great.
right. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It has to be. I mean, and most people want that anyway. I mean, obviously there's some that don't, but for the most part, if you're in real estate, you're constantly, being of service to people and helping people. And I'm sure that carries into personal life and also your business. We forget that realtors are mini corporations. I say it all the time. You got
Yeah.
to treat it just like a business. And you calling it positions is exactly the same. It's exactly that.
Yeah. I think if people or real estate agents conducted themselves more like, even if you're under a big brand,
Yeah.
conducted yourself like you, because you carry all the hats that a normal business would take care of. Your brokerage doesn't do that, you do it.
Right.
So if you're the CEO of your company, if you're the next Google of real estate,
Yeah.
be intentional about how you're going to do that and how you're going
Yeah.
to deal with it. And even people who reject doing business planning and stuff, I'm like, well, how are
Right.
you going to know if you're successful if you don't know what the goal is?
Right.
And then it's just like, then you're just chasing the carrot all day long. And
Yep.
that's not, there's nothing fulfilling about that.
Hmm. And we usually learn the hard way. So thank you
Yeah.
for saying that because maybe that'll, and I mean, we're in new year, new everything, and people are, doing goals and visions and things like that. But I think I didn't do it for a long time, and then there's people that are like anti-resolution because they don't want the fear of not reaching that goal, but thinking of it in a different mindset would probably be really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
I
start
want,
my goal planning in the end of August, and I have it written by the end of September for rollout in October, because it takes 90 days to get any proof in your pudding, right?
check
So
you out.
if you want to have results January 1 and you're doing planning January 1, I mean, you're not going to get it till March, April, maybe.
Right. Okay, so when you do your goal planning, do you do one set of goals for both the book and your real estate business, or do you do them separately?
The book, I originally wrote it to give back to other agents, because again, it was the question of, if I had this answer, I would have had my goal, right?
Right.
So the book is more, it's a reach back. It's my way to say thank you to my mentors and visionary and coach and AP, help other people. So I don't really have a ton of plan for that book, except for I hope that people enjoy it. And I intend to reinvest that money into new agents the best I can.
Yeah.
And then with my business, it's intense. I do full marketing plan. It's intense. And it most, I can hear you laughing because you're like, yeah,
I
I
already
know
know.
you, and I know that it's probably intense. And I just think, and it's, it's built out by month and all the things that I intend to do, because I have this really great mentor right now who talks about 1% better every day. And I love that. It's like, if I wake up today and I'm just 1% better, in 100 days, I'll be 100% better. So if I just, what can I do today that's 1% better? So when I map out my goals, I do them in increments. And if I've met that 1%, then I know that tomorrow it's going to be better too.
Okay, how drilled down do you get?
It's pretty,
Never mind.
it's pretty intense actually. But
I love that you work on it prior to the new year, and because then you're always thinking about your business in ways that you normally probably wouldn't be, because you're getting through the day to day.
yeah, because my fourth quarter pop buys were in relation to selling your house in the spring.
Right.
I need to be ahead of their thinking, and I need to be way ahead so that I've already planted the seed. And then my phone calls, my mail outs after that pop by are just in line, and it's an easy touch. They're like, oh yeah, Shelley, oh yeah, Shelley. And even
Right.
if they throw away like the direct marketing, or because they will,
Yeah.
it's still that quick reminder
Yep.
of, oh, she mentioned that.
Yep.
And yes, I am interested, or no, I'm not at all. And
Yeah.
both answers are fine.
Yeah. Are you still using that email you told me about a while back, about you send an email goes out to your clients about their investment?
Yes. HomeBot?
What is it?
HomeBot?
HomeBot. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me about that really quickly, because I think it's amazing.
It's a partnership with my lender. So what they get is a digest every month. And if you think about it, like say you had a 401k or something,
Yeah.
and you check it quarterly and you're like, okay, well, it's looking good. And it's not like you're actually going to do anything, right?
Right.
Your house is one of your biggest financial investments.
Right.
So what are we doing to help sellers or buyers understand the value that they have, not only in their 401k, but as a part of a whole ecosystem?
Right.
So when I introduced HomeBot, I introduced it like that. And what I said was, this is not an attempt to get you to sell your house or whatever. This is information, and it is a calculated price. It's not what I would give you. So if you do need a valuation, we still need to do that. But
Yeah.
it gives you an idea of, okay, this is what interest rates are today. This is what mine is. And it says you could probably save X amount if you refinanced, or you're coming up to refinancing. These are what it looks like. Or if you wanted to Airbnb your house, what average would you get? Or if you wanted to do this, or if you had this much equity in your home, you could take it out and do, and it just provides options and ability for dreaming. And that is all that I talk to them about.
Yeah.
And then when they're ready, because they feel prepared, I think. And then when they're ready, I shut down the HomeBot, and they know, like, don't look at that valuation as that's the only thing, because we actually have to drill down.
Right.
And I think that if you just sign them up for HomeBot, they're not going to understand. Like it's a conversation. And then from there, they feel like they have the reins. And I feel like the more control and information they have, the more power they feel,
Yeah.
the more concise decision making they can make.
Well, and what I love, it's going back to the mindset thing. It is an investment. Like, real estate is one of the biggest and probably best investments that you can make, and and you get to live in it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I think that people all too often think about it as their home, which of course, naturally they should. But at the same time, they should also be thinking about what that long term investment is going to look like and just be reminded of that. Like, hey, I just made money by living in my house.
Right. Yeah.
And
And HomeBot's really good because it's a passive way to ask for information. Like they can click a button and ask me for a CMA. And
right,
then it's a reach back to, hey, can I come by and look real quick? And it doesn't have to be something that is such a stressful decision,
right.
I find.
So do they have to sign up with a lender partner or can they
No,
sign up?
no, I just do because we have an agreement. But
Yeah, I think that's awesome too. And also too, talking about, I know that realtors get inundated with lenders and, a lot of times it can feel like a one-way street where the lenders just want you to refer people to them, but then they're not getting anything in return, and they work with a lot of realtors, so why would they refer you? But having a relationship with a couple of lenders, and that doesn't mean you refer them, a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes people will have their own lenders and you don't say anything, but having the way that you have developed your relationship with your lender has been, I mean, you talk about her a lot. She's one of the people in your positions, right?
she is now, she wasn't originally. No.
Okay.
The funny thing about my relationship with my lender is we had a very candid conversation, I think, in the first week that we met. And she said, I'm one of the most top producing people in town. And I don't know enough people to give referrals. I'm one human.
Right.
She said straight out, she's like, I'm not going to give you a referral. But what I
Right.
am going to do is I'm going to invest in your business, my time and my resources whenever you ask me. So if you want to partner on something, let me know. And at first, I did not understand that at all. Except all I heard was, okay, well, she's not going to refer
No.
me, which I didn't care because I was like, I want to be in charge of the referrals that I get. I
Yeah.
want it to come from the people that I understand and want to work with. I don't want it to be, I think that I would enjoy life as a real estate agent working with people that I like working with. And
Yes.
that's my whole goal. Right.
Yep. Yep.
So we made that agreement. And then there was I did a needs assessment on my niche group. And there was this one thing that they were struggling with, and it was involving debt. And a lot of them were having trouble. So I called her and I said, here's the problem. I don't know anybody that can fix it. And you probably don't have an overlay that fixes it either. But I want to figure out a way that we can help this group of people afford more house. How can we do that? And it took I would say about 6 months, both of us trying to figure out how to fix it. And then we did.
Wow.
And those types of relationships, like the amount of business that I was able to acquire just by solving a problem.
Right.
And it's a genuine caring thing that
Issue.
I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it just to get business. These people actually need houses and they can't
Right.
afford it because of debt.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where our relationship really started to solidify. And then after that, it was more, okay, I want to grow in this area. And how can I do that? Because she's a great coach. I mean, she built a huge business.
Right.
So I was like, I just want to do this right now. How do I do it? And together, she's been a great ally.
Right. But you were, I mean, exactly what you just said. You were intentional about it and specific when you went to her. And I know, Tammy's a busy, busy person. And so obviously, if you just went to her and was like, I don't know, I feel like if you weren't as specific as you were, that you guys may not have accomplished that, because you don't want to put too much in their court either. And you want to have some control over what it is that you are trying to, put out, or whatever you're trying to figure out. You want to be a part of that. You don't want to just hand over the problem and be like, fix this for me, and then we'll put out a postcard.
With my people was There's this book called Contagious by Jonah Berger,
Yep.
and it's about what makes something catch on, word
Yep.
of mouth, right?
Very good
And
book.
what I was trying to do is, okay, I have figured out this need, right? And it's a problem someone can't solve yet. I'm going to solve it. And then because it doesn't exist anywhere else, I'm going to push that word of mouth out there and see what comes back. And that's what happened,
Yeah.
because they started talking to each other. Oh, well, there is a solution now. It's over here. And then that's what started pushing business my way. And then after that, it was really about super serve. I really needed to show up and show them that I was a real estate agent that cared, that I wasn't
Yeah.
going to pass them off to anybody else, that
Yep.
their business mattered to me, and
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to be
Involved.
consistently stay a part of their community, which,
Yeah.
that took a long time. It took 2 years. No, well, by the time I recognized I had to do that, it was probably like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So like near the end of my 4th year, I think, is really when it started to show up.
Yeah, yeah. And I think realtors, when I stopped practicing, I was like, I had realized that I lived my life in 60 to 90-day increments. It was like you're constantly thinking 90 days ahead or 45 days, whatever the closing.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to think about. I think realtors, and it's probably a mind block that they don't even realize. First of all, what you said earlier about, what can I do that's 1% better than yesterday? I think realtors probably don't think about that often enough because they're always thinking ahead. They're always thinking ahead in the future. And, or they're thinking in 90-day increments. And so when you see something that's 6 months, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so far away. Like that's never going to
Yeah.
happen. But
Mm-hmm.
people that are in real estate usually for if you make it past, I don't know what the statistics are, maybe you do, if you make it past the first, I don't know what, 2-3 years, you're probably going to be in it for a while.
I think we lose 80% at 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
well,
what
if
I
you get
heard.
past the 5-year mark,
Yeah.
then you kind of are in it forever.
Wait, did I make it?
And the 5-year mark, I don't know if that's changed, but there's kind of a 3-year and a 2-year, I think, for a lot of realtors. At 3 years, you are like seeing the fruits of your labor, if
Mm-hmm.
you will. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's encouraging. But at 5 years, probably in between 3 and 5 years, and this isn't the same for everyone. Obviously, everybody's different.
Sure.
But you start getting people that are calling you about listing their house without you hounding them, but you have, because you've built this business to where whatever you're doing, pop buys and kind of
Yeah.
the things that you were talking about, you're staying in front of them in one way or another, and you're serving them, and you're helping them and making sure that they're getting their questions answered, or the things they need in their real estate world, or whatever that may be. So
Right.
yeah, I think that 5-year mark it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, now, I mean, the work never stops, obviously,
Right.
but
I
you have a
think too,
lot figured out.
it depends on what you do in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
This is not going to be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that if you are a licensed person and then you're not confident, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, I'm kind of scared to go out on myself, so I'm going to go and I'm going to join a team, right? And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
learn that way. What has always concerned me, and what I think I will give myself some props, is that I had the courage to be able to learn on the job.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur by myself, and find the people to support me, as opposed to going into a team. Because once you start giving away your database to someone else, I really don't know how you can start again. So
Yeah.
like, let's say that in the first year you have this database of maybe there's 2 or 3 people that are going to use you, right?
Yeah.
The second year is the hardest because you don't really have, you kind of used it up, right? And then you're
Right.
really having to learn how to prospect. If you don't go through those first 2 steps and you delay them because you worked on a team or you gave away your database, I just don't really know. It must be 10 times harder to then launch your own entrepreneurial space.
Yeah.
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 I'm of the mindset that if you want to be a real estate agent and you really want to build a business, I mean, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it, you know?
And the other thing about teams is that you get absorbed by the team and how they operate and how they do things. And so you don't learn what it is that works for you because you're just doing it the way that it's being done within the team. And there are people that want to be on a team and stay on a team and it works for them. And, but you have to evaluate that. I see a lot of questions in Facebook groups about teams and whether they should join a team. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think you really have to think about how you want what do you want out of your real
Yeah,
estate career?
exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Because it's expensive to be on a team.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. When you're losing your business, your
Yeah.
commission checks,
I mean, if you get 35% of a lead you bring in,
right.
and then you pay tax on that.
Yeah. And then all your business expenses and yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
So
next.
Yep. Moving on. The last thing I want to make sure that we talk about is not only did you write the book, but you being you, and if you guys haven't figured out who Shelley is as a person yet by now during this podcast, this makes total sense. But you wrote the book and then you were like, okay, that's not enough. I want to also I want to nurture these people just like with your clients. The people that have read your book, whether most of them are new agents, but you don't have to be a new agent to read the book. And you took it a step further. So you tell me about, I forget what do you call it? I mean, it's a mission, but
New Agent 365 missions.
Okay. So tell me what it is and how you are implementing it. And then I want to hear about the first one that you put out because you're doing a second one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened was I put the book out in June 2019. And like I said, it sold out the first 2 weeks. It just kind of like went crazy. And then like new agents from all over, like Canada, England, somebody from Ireland, Australia, it was all over. And they were like, firstly, thank you for writing it because it's written in an empathetic tone. Like this is hard. Okay.
Yep.
So let's just all remember. And then the second thing they were asking was, I don't know what to do now. I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking. And I read the statistic on NAR that said that 86% of agents that enter into being a real estate agent do not have any finance, business, sales, retail experience. But yet we expect that as soon as you get licensed that you would know how to run a business. But 86% of people don't know how to do that. And I was like, how could I build something that's affordable? Because I couldn't also like training in real estate. I mean, the cheapest one I could find was $350 a month. And you talk to somebody who's never sold a house in their life. And I was like, I don't understand this program.
Right.
So I found a whole bunch of friends, you included, and I asked if everybody, if 12 people over 12 weeks picked a topic and taught just the basics of the foundation of what a business is in real estate, would the entire industry just get a little bit better because we all understand what we're supposed to be doing? Because I think that it was a knowledge barrier, not an effort barrier. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
So we put it together and we launched New Agent 365 missions in September, and we went through our first one. And it was very successful. We had sales within the program right away. So that was cool.
Nice.
And the feedback was that, like, of the topics that we talked about, we get into prospecting, we get into mindset, but we also talk about how does finances go through your business? When you get a check, it turns out it's not all yours. How should it flow properly through a business so that you don't owe the IRS so much money at the end, right?
Right.
We talk about niche marketing. We talk about the art of giving, marketing plans, but we don't get so deep that we try to take over what a brokerage wants to teach.
Right.
It's really just the basics and the foundation of the business. And
Yeah.
we run it again. We're going to start March 29th.
And it's 12 weeks?
It's 12 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's not a go at your own pace. On Monday morning, you show up, you get your video, you have to finish a mission by Friday, and then we remove the content on Sunday. So if you didn't do it, you lose it. And that was really hard for the first one. A couple people
Right.
were like, uh-oh,
Wait.
you have to show up.
Yep. And there's
like
a
I
Facebook
said,
group.
there is a Facebook group so that you can get support in there. And then every week that trainer of that week comes on and they do question answer on Friday. So
Yep.
you get a ton of support. So if you want to be your own business, that might be a good place to start. And we'll be there to try and help you. It's $100. It's really.
And where can they sign up?
If you go to newagent365.com, it's all there.
The mission's right there. And when's the next one?
March 29th.
March 29th. So they have plenty of time to sign up.
Yep.
And did you get people that had been realtors for a couple years, or were they all really new?
We did, actually.
Okay.
There was a few in there and they were looking for a refresher. And some of them actually gave me some feedback that there was a few things they didn't know how to do, or that they wanted to do, but they didn't know how to implement it.
Yeah.
And the trainer, because we went in such a simplistic way,
yeah,
that it's just an easy, okay, the first day you do this, the second day you do this, and then by the end of the week, you should be able to achieve that task.
Yeah.
So
did you get
really
any
spelled out?
Yeah. Did you get anybody that wasn't a realtor, like maybe a lender or title or anybody like that?
They didn't do the missions, but they were watching. They wanted to see, because they were thinking of referring it themselves.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are looking for affordable training.
Yep.
That actually works.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think that there's a lot out there, but it's just so expensive.
And you've done the foundation, the basis of the 12 weeks. And so you're just recycling that, right?
Yeah. Well, and then in
videos.
The Facebook group, we'll be going again.
Yeah. I mean, you put a lot of work into it. You're talking to them all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a volunteer thing. What paid for it was the revenue from the book. I just kicked into an account, and then we launched New Agent 365 to give them back their own money, pretty much.
So cool. Well, congrats.
Thank you.
On your first run. I'm sure you were thinking that it was going to be a flop.
I didn't know. I was like, and the worst thing was that I had to go onto Facebook Live. And if you know me, I'm not really into that stuff. So I was like, okay, well, and I think every single video, it starts with me singing because I was kind of nervous.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sing to myself. This is a self-soothe situation.
Right. Wait for people to come on.
Yeah.
They got a little elevator music prior.
Yeah. Yeah. Little Boys to Men there at the end, right?
Right.
So you and I did.
Let's not talk about that.
I can't approach anything without some kind of fun. So
okay, so
I can't do anything too seriously. It's not
right. And I want to close out with this. One of the things that I love about what you do is you have the sweetest, nicest, cutest home inspector ever.
I do.
And he tells now, did he like tell you a joke and then you were like, oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody? Or did you make him tell you a joke?
No, it started with Seth because, you know what it was? I had just released the book, and I said, I wanted to complete and publish a book by the time I was 40. And I've done that and I'm stoked about it. And he said, you know what I've always wanted to be? And it came out of nowhere. He's like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. I was like, well, let's start today. And we started laughing. So then I took a video, and his business isn't online really. Like he's not, it is online, but he doesn't have social media channels.
He's a home inspector. Yeah.
So I was like, well, why don't every time we're together, you just tell me a joke and I'll promote you. And then we'll figure out which ones work and which don't. And he's like, okay, well, some of them I make up myself. Is that okay? I'm like, that's even better. So then, it's just a way for him and I to connect. And we went from like, I just called him out of the blue because someone said he was pretty good, to now like I'm close with his family, and we're good friends, and I care for him and his business
Yeah.
a lot. So, and
So
that's what relationships are, right?
go follow Shelley. She puts them on her lives every time you have a home inspection with him. You do at least 2 or 3 jokes during the home inspection.
Yeah, it depends how much time he has.
Yeah.
And I'll always text him before. I'm like, we're seeing each other today. You better be preparing your joke.
Get your jokes down. I think it's awesome.
And then I take him as stand-up comedian.
Oh my gosh. I look forward to it every time. I love it.
I'll make sure I tell him I'm going to see him on Wednesday. So,
well, tell him Tracy wants a joke just for me.
Okay, I will. I will.
All right, Shelley. So tell us where everybody can find you in the book.
You can get the book at All Things Real Estate Store.
Hey.
I am on Facebook at Shelley Zavitz, and then I have a business page of Shelley Zavitz. I'm @Zavi on Instagram, Shelley Zavitz on Twitter.
Spell your last name.
Z like zebra, A like apple, V like Victor, I like igloo, T like Tom, Z like zebra.
In your whispering. All right. So we'll also put the links so that people can just click as well. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
This was fun. Hopefully I didn't chat too much.
I'm usually worse, so it was perfect. Have you done a podcast before?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, I figured. I just assumed. I was like, I didn't even ask you. Usually I'm like, okay, so you know, but I assume that you've done podcasts. And as a little bit of advice, realtors, you should all be doing podcasts. Like, do it with your favorite restaurant or your home inspector, whoever. Just get on podcasts. Because I told myself this morning, I was like, I should probably be on more podcasts. I love hosting them and talking to all of our friends and customers and all that good stuff. But I should also be promoting my business and getting on more podcasts. And while I was talking to you, we mentioned Ross at Sphere. I need to ask him. He needs to be on our podcast too. So
yes, he does. He actually has a new integration that he should talk about with you.
Snap.
He just told me about it. It's pretty awesome.
All right. Go to sphere.com, you guys. If Ross isn't even on right now, but he will be. We'll get him on. I appreciate you, Shelley. Thanks for being on.
I love you. Thanks
love
for
you
everything.
back.
All right.
Bye, honey buns.
Bye.